All right, I'm ready. Hit it.
All right, we are live. It is 6:05. We will call the meeting of the ISD 181 Board of Education to order, and we will start with roll call, please.
Susan Boyles.
Here.
Michelle Brecken.
Here.
DJ Donlinger.
Here.
Randy Heidman.
Here.
Sarah Spear.
Here.
John Ward.
Here. Thank you. We'll move on to the approval of the agenda as amended. We had a last-second amendment due to...
Want to do the pledge?
We have to do the Pledge of Allegiance first. I'm sorry. I probably read the agenda. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, so we have a slight amendment to the agenda for this evening under item number 12. The Partner Ed Listening Community Session for tomorrow is not occurring. Instead, we're doing 3 virtual sessions.
It was replaced with 3 virtual sessions.
Okay, so there'll be 3 virtual sessions.
How come?
We are having better participation requests for virtual. So, because tomorrow night is a key stakeholder. The committee meets tomorrow night. So that's why they added 3 virtual sessions.
Oh, so they're added. We still have our meeting tomorrow night.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, this was an in-person listening session, and they converted the 3 virtual.
I see.
And then can people hear back there okay when we're talking? It sounds like it's broadcasting. I didn't know we didn't have the...
It's echoing, that's for sure.
Yeah, okay. All right, so I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion by Director Ward and a second by Director Heidman. Any further discussion? Not all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, let's move on to recognitions. Director Heidman, maybe you want to start us off with the first one?
The entire one?
Sure, go for it.
Okay. A big thank you to Alexis Marcello and the Brainerd High School Student Council for all their efforts with the following. Polar Plunge raised $17,545. We packed 30,672 meals for the outreach, which directly supports local food shelves, including our Warrior Warehouse. We had over 30 local businesses on campus for the job fair. The talent show was a success with 12 groups and individuals performing. And we had a drum performance flag ceremony with the Mille Lacs Band through our Indigenous Peoples Club.
All right, Director Ward, would you be so kind as to read the next one?
Yes, Warrior football coach Troy Nelson was awarded one of the Butch Nash Awards, which is a big deal, folks, at the Minnesota Football Coach Association football banquet on Saturday, April 1st. This award is given to a group of assistant coaches each season in the state of Minnesota by the Minnesota Football Coaches Association. The Butch Nash Award is meant to go to a coach who is a high-level assistant coach who sets a high standard for his coaching ability, but also in the form of their leadership, longevity, and commitment to the game of football. Congratulations, Troy.
Thank you, Director Ward. Director Heidman, I believe you asked to be recognized for a comment related to recognitions.
Yeah, I've been on the board now. This is my 4th meeting. And we've been recognizing a lot of people, a lot of athletes. And there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, it's fantastic. What I'd like to see is our main purpose is educating kids, getting them through the system so they can be ready for college, trade school, or entry into the workforce. In my opinion, what we need to start doing is recognizing more students. I've been in the schools a lot, and I know there's students of the month. I know there's a fine arts person of the week. That was just in the Brainerd paper. There was a senior who was just recognized by the VFW as Scout of the Year. So I think it's incumbent upon all of us, board members, Dr. Hahn, principals. I know a lot of principals are here today. So when you have some student recognition, I think pass it along to Dr. Hahn, and she may already be aware of it. I don't know. Sometimes she may not. There's a lot of stuff going on in the schools. If it takes an extra 10 minutes, so be it. but I think students need to be recognized. These kids work hard and they need the recognition. And I think it's important that they get it. So just a thought for us to consider for future board meetings when we do have some students that are doing some great things. And so that is just my thought. I don't know if the board members have any other or not, but I just wanted to get that out there.
Thank you, Director Heidman. All right, I guess we'll move on then to public input. And tonight we have, I believe, one community member, Mr. Kern. If you'd be so kind as to come on up.
All kinds of chairs in today. So, yeah, I'm just kind of going back to Amy Aho, you know, your daughter. I'm really glad that Governor Walz appointed her to the PELBS board. I'm still really concerned about this PELBS board. What they're pushing is the agenda to steer away from education and into the LGBTQ, transgender, gender studies. You know, I see that there's a shortage of teachers in Minnesota, and I see that they're relieving some teachers here as of next year. Don't know what the reason is. But I'm just praying that this school board can really encourage Amy to take a step up and try to get PELBS to go back to educating our children and stop indoctrinating them. What I see coming in 2025 is there's going to be a flurry of people leaving the schools, the public school education system, because of what Judge Mortensen did as far as putting into play the agenda that you have to push in order to keep your license as a teacher. You have to push the LGBTQ plus agenda. And you're going to see a flurry of people leaving the school districts. And you think we're hurting for students now, it's going to be worse in 2025 if this doesn't turn around. So thank you.
All right, we'll move along to the approval of the regular school board meeting minutes from March 20th.
Motion?
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Director Dondelinger, second by Director Spear. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next is consent calendar. The hires are approved pending negotiated contracts and agreements and the approved and acceptable background checks. Presumably everybody's had a chance to review those. I would entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve. I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion by Director Spear with a second by Director Brecken. Any further discussion on the consent calendar? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, next up, Angie Bennett with the approval of the resolution for the non-renewal of non-tenured teachers.
Good evening. So there was a question just in public comment here about the reasoning in regard to the non-renewal. So I do have a breakdown for you of kind of the reasoning behind that. The goal of the district is to maintain all these teachers. There have been some changes in the student population in a couple buildings, especially in special ed, where some are moving from elementary to middle school or middle school to high school, which has shifted the needs across buildings in order to kind of make it a cleaner and allow that teacher choice. They are up for non-renewal, and then they're being encouraged to apply for those positions with a recommendation from the principal. There was one teacher that was non-renewed as a probationary teacher due to section changes in the school, where the class sizes were getting to a level that they were so small, we had to reduce a section. One was in regard to title allocations. There was a decrease in title funding. So there was a probationary teacher within the title funding structure. And so the way we do that is based on seniority and title. So that was kind of the change there. I talked about special ed. And then as Dr. Hahn had already briefed you on, there's a lot of out-of-field permissions, tier ones, those types of things that require reposting of positions. It is our duty to source fully licensed candidates, and so there were 3 positions that were non-renewed for that reason.
Can you explain, I mean, maybe everybody understands it. RJ, do you know what a section is?
Do I know what?
What a section is? So they reduced the section?
Yes.
I can explain it if I think I know what I'm talking about.
That's the.
So there's 3 second grade classes in an elementary school, and there's only like 14 kids in a class or 12, so they go from 3 to 2. So when they talk about a section, they just went from 3 second grade classes to 2 second grade classes. I talked to, I think, Heidi about it before, so I kind of get it, but when I first heard the section thing, I didn't really track what was going on.
Sure.
So, well, thanks. Now we know.
But many of our teachers hold, so there's teachers on this list that hold multiple licensures. So then they're being encouraged to apply for an open position in the district. So again, as our intent is to hold the appropriate licensed staff, but they do get shifted.
Cool.
And Angie, most of the ones that are getting the disclosure of non-renewal are on tier 1 teachers?
Not tier 1 necessarily, out-of-field permission, so there's a requirement to post and get fully licensed out-of-field permission.
Yep.
There is 1 tier 1. The other 2, I believe, are the out-of-field permissions for the 3 on the alternate licensures. And then the other ones are due to kind of the shifting of the students.
But as you indicated, our goal as a district is to try to retain as many of these
Absolutely.
folks as we can. Because it's always hard on educators when those pink slips come around. Well, for anybody, not just educators, but at this time of the year, it's difficult. But
It is.
thank you
and
for indicating that, we're trying to retain all of them.
Absolutely, and, we are encouraging them all, and they are applying. So the reason that we wanted to do this as early as we did is to also allow those educators the opportunity to look elsewhere if the positions that we have available weren't of interest to them. So they weren't waiting until that, because July 1st is our deadline to non-renew, but we never want to wait until the June board meeting when those positions are no longer available. So I am hopeful that we will maintain these teachers in some capacity. They're great educators. It's not an easy decision, but when we have to shift around, we need to kind of make these decisions and allow for kind of their decision to apply elsewhere because they were hired into a specific position. I don't want to force them into another position that they may have 0 interest in.
So does an out of field position, is that like they're on a waiver and need to get some certain licensure requirements to continue and they haven't?
Yep, they have a full license,
Yeah.
but they're teaching outside of their content area.
Got it, okay.
And so if you're familiar with all the tiered licensing, there's multiple areas that they do, but it's the old variance term is the out-of-field permission, so it does require a 60-day posting period where we have to seek out fully licensed candidates. If there are none, and that individual was very good at their position, we can request a renewal for that. But if there is a fully licensed candidate in that area, we have to interview and then give specific reasoning why we wouldn't go with a fully licensed candidate.
Oh, interesting, okay.
So, yeah, lots of requirements that we have to follow.
And timelines.
Any other questions?
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution for non-renewal of the non-tenured teachers as presented.
I'll second.
Okay.
Okay, so we have a motion from Director Spear and a second by Director Heidman to approve the resolution as presented. Any further discussion? If not, then this is a roll call vote.
Michelle Brecken,
Yes.
BJ Dunlawyer,
Yes.
Randy Heidman,
Yes.
Sarah Spirit,
Yes.
John Ward,
Yes.
Kevin Boils,
Yes.
all in favor.
Thank you.
All right. Now on to some of the more fun things we get to see. Tonight we're delighted to have some representatives from Future Farmers of America for a presentation. Come on down.
Found out from Mr. Nelson, we have a name change. So Mr. Nelson, why don't you come down and give an introduction with your team too?
Nelson. I, along with Bethany Mouse, are two ag instructors at Brainerd High School. And we also advise the Brainerd FFA chapter of the national FFA organization. So the name was changed from the Future Farmers of America to the National FFA organization back in 1989. So we as a Brainerd chapter have been around since 1940. The national organization's been around since 1928. We were asked to come and tell you what's up with Brainerd FFA, what we're doing. And I asked back, can we do a little presentation and show you one of the opportunities that these students get to participate in. So they're a little nervous, I'm a little nervous, but it's all right. So I told them to treat it just like any other practice. So one of the contests or leadership development events they perform or do or can be involved in is called the parliamentary procedure event. And basically 6 individuals and they get a motion that they have to perform along with a main motion, along with each of them has their own individual motion that they see on this little card. They get a minute to flip the sheet over. They got to mentally prepare for this, and then they give a mock meeting. They have to do it within 9 minutes after official ceremonies, opening ceremonies, and get certain discussion in 11 minutes. 9 or 11. They're going to do it in 9 because they're going to talk. We'll see. So we're going to do that first just to show you how parliamentary procedure is run in a contest setting and how it can be run at meetings. It's an excellent contest for teamwork and team building. It's one of about 3 contests that are truly team-oriented that we have in the FFA. It's a life skill. My sister's the coach, Veronica Geisenhoff, and she still uses those skills, and it's really, wherever they go, whatever they do, whether it's in agriculture or not, they're going to be able to speak up in a room and in front of people they don't know and be able to voice their knowledge, opinions, that sort of thing. So,
Can I ask one thing, Mr. Nelson?
What's that?
So before we make them jump in, can they introduce themselves? Maybe
Yes.
that'll take some of the anxiety down, or just
That'd be
give us a
fine.
little bit of background about, name, role, what grade you're in, any other fun facts?
maybe, why don't you do your spiel about FFA first?
Leadership?
Yeah.
Okay.
I gave each a task to talk a little bit about what Brainerd FFA does.
Okay.
We'll get that out of the way, and then we'll be done after our presentation.
Should I face this way or should I face this way?
You think I'd stand up here.
Okay. Well, I don't know if I should be talking to y'all or should be talking to the group. Okay, so I'm here to talk about leadership and what FFA really does.
Who are you?
Oh, yeah, sorry guys. I'm Ellie. I am this year's reporter. I also ran for region office, which is really big in FFA. I am now the 2023-2024 region historian. But leadership is very big. An easy way I can describe this is like thinking back to my freshman years. I'm a junior right now, and I was like the kid who sat in the corner. I wouldn't really talk, but with really being in FFA and being involved in different things, it has really helped me grow as a person, and it's opened my eyes to new and different interests. And I'm very I try to advocate for the agriculture industry as much as I can, but FFA is probably the best decision I've ever done. Who wants to go next? Just go down the line.
Never speak loudly, too.
Really took me. Oh. Okay, so I'm Melissa.
I'm Bailey.
And we're talking about community service projects.
So, yeah, within FFA. So this year we've done,
Okay, so I did a soup kitchen last year. There wasn't very many people, but we had a smaller group of FFA members, I think, last year than we do this year. But I think the opportunities that we have for our community service really helps you develop as a person. After that, I kind of came out of my shell more because I know I was with Ella for that. And talking to the people that came in and stuff, and I really think it just helped boost my confidence and showed me different parts of the community and how I can help.
yeah, so a couple other ones we did tractor pulls and stuff. We just recently did a grocery bagging at the local club food stores. I think within FFA, doing all the community service and everything that we do within FFA has helped me become a better person and build my talking in front of people skills better.
Good job talking.
Yeah.
So polite, taking turns.
My name is Audrey, and I'm the Brainerd FFA Vice President, and I was tasked with SAEs. Now, what are SAEs, you ask? SAEs are Supervised Agriculture Experiences. My SAE, it's like a project that I'm working on, is actually in the category of entrepreneurship. So I own my own farrow to feeder barn. So I farrow out sows, and I grow them up to feeder pigs, and I sell them. That's my business. Another one of our SAE categories are placement, which gives the opportunity for an FFA student to work in an agriculture-related field. That might be a greenhouse, it might be a farm store, and they have the opportunity to apply that into FFA and just gain so many skills and further better themselves in FFA.
Okay, I'm Ella. I'm in 10th grade, and I'm supposed to talk about state convention this year. So we have 27 members going, competing in 9 different competitions in total. We'll go for 3 days. It's pretty fun. You get to meet so many new people. You sit in the huge, I don't know, wherever we go. I don't remember where it is, but yeah, so you sit in this huge auditorium and you get to see all of the state officers perform and stuff like that. There's talent shows that we go to and watch, and you get to meet a lot of new people and see what they do at FFA, as well as perform in front of a bunch of people that really know what they're doing, so it's pretty cool.
So I'm Zoe Smith. I am this year's secretary. So I was set to talk about Ag Time, and Ag Time is where we go to the 2nd grade classrooms in the ISD 181 district and teach them about agriculture. We just have 5 or 6 lessons throughout the year, and the kids absolutely love it and enjoy it. We usually get hugs from everybody in our classes when we come in and then when we leave again, and they really enjoy it. And then we usually invite them out for farm tours, except we do that for like the kindergarten, possibly preschool, and just kind of show them what it actually is. Like, we teach them about it, but we don't, in the classroom we don't really have the opportunity to show them what it is. So then when we have farm tours, like at the Crow Wing County Fair, a lot of kids come through and actually do like the hands-on experience where they can experience kind of what we're teaching them about. And like I said, all of our kids enjoy all of our lessons. And we have members throughout our entire chapter that do Ag Time. So, are we ready for our presentation?
Yes.
I've got a question.
Sure.
How old do you have to be? I mean, are there junior high, middle school kids in there? Is it just high school?
It's just high school.
So
9th
ninth
through
grade?
12. Yep.
Do you guys have a booth at the fair? Or do you just work out there?
We have the kitty barn. Of course, yeah, we have the kitty barn. We're always in the kitty barn.
Well, there you go. So you have a booth.
Right.
Usually, FFA it's for 7th through 12th grade. So if you have a middle school program, or a school that has middle school, you can have FFA students in that. If we have Ag Ed here at Forestry, we could. So, but usually Brainerd, we start 9th grade. And
How many kids are in there this year? 27?
Funny you bring that up. So we've opted to do what's called an affiliate membership, basically, which means that every student that's in an Ag Ed class is also a member of the FFA. We pay one affiliate fee for all those students to have the opportunity to participate. Whether or not they want to, it's totally up to them, but it gives Mrs. Mouse and I a chance to further engage those students. They can get involved with it without feeling the pressure of I gotta pay a due or what do I gotta do to be in FFA? You're in. You wanna sell some fruit or be a part of this contest or try this, come with us, try it out. A little easier on recruiting it for us and gives them all that opportunity. So we have about 60 or so, active members that come regularly to meetings and stuff. So we had 27 kids going to the state convention. We had a group of them go to national convention in October this last fall, which is in Indianapolis usually. So yeah. And then the last thing, I brought my sister along. She's the president of our current alumni and supporters chapter. It's equivalent to the sports boosters for the Ag Ed world here at BHS. And we're having our annual fundraising picnic on the end of May. We've got a little flyer for you. In the back it talks about what the money goes to that we support through our Ag Ed community. You're all cordially invited. Kevin Thiesing said to give you a personal invitation, so here's your personal invitation.
What's that?
Well,
So,
Kevin said.
It's the Thursday before, and everybody in here is invited. It's at the county fair. There's for sure a silent auction, whether some of it's in person or online. We're kind of getting out of the COVID world. Last year was all online silent auction. This year we're hoping to be back more in person. It's at the county fairgrounds, the curling building, Thursday night before Memorial Weekend. The food is awesome. Green Lantern helps put it on. Mark Nesham from Wings Cafe. Some of you recognize those names probably. And the FFA members are there to help, and all the money goes back to the FFA alumni and supporters group, who then turn around and support the different things that are listed on the back of the flyer. So,
Cool.
Any other questions?
I have a comment on the fundraiser. My wife and I have been at it every year, and it's an awesome fundraiser. It's great food. These young people do a remarkable job in serving, and the silent auction is remarkable. There used to be a live auction with.
We're hoping to bring it back. So
Are you?
there's, yep. So
Okay.
some live and maybe silent auction online. We're still deciding it. So.
But it's worth your opportunity to come out there and support this organization and these students, along with having a great time. Bring your families, bring your neighbors, bring your enemies, bring everybody. And it is a great fundraiser that's been going on for a long time.
Thank you.
Yep.
I have a question. Do any of you participate in debate and/or take speech classes? Just out of curiosity.
I do not, but I've had a lot of people tell me that I should, because I've always been a person that I like to research, and then I'm like super vocal and like to kind of argue, my parents say, so I've been told that I should be in debate, but I haven't done it yet, so.
Is that why you chose to be president for this contest?
Well, I was president last year, so
I was just curious because we're dealing with parliamentary procedure, so I was just curious if any of you are taking speech or debate. So far, I mean, you young people have done a very good job in speaking, and that is very important in any society, to be able to talk to people and communicate and whatnot. So I commend you on that. I would only ask one other thing, and that is tomorrow, if any of you are in Bethany Moss's class, take it easy on me because I'll be subbing for her tomorrow. Just, help me out if you can.
That's awesome.
Well, I think is it a coincidence there's 6 of you and you're going to do parliamentary procedure? I feel like if you do really well, we'll just switch places and you guys can be on the school board.
Part of their contest is, they're going to start here in just a minute. Part of their contest, they each have a required motion they have to do. Plus they have to do an additional one from a list that they have memorized. And they have to get 3 good debates or discussions in that have good meat and potatoes to it. Why, who, what, where, and so on. So everybody's going to be listening now to make sure you're going to do all that. So, but they're going to do their best.
Thanks for ratting us out, Nelson.
All right.
All right, everybody ready? The meeting room will now come to order. We are now holding a meeting of the Brainerd FFA chapter. Madam Vice President, are all officers at their stations?
I shall call the roll of officers, determine if they're at their stations, and report back to you, Madam President. The Sentinel.
Stationed by the door.
Your duties there?
Through this door pass many friends of the FFA. It is my duty to see that the door is open at all times and they are welcome. I care for the meeting room and paraphernalia. I strive to keep the room comfortable and assist the President in maintaining order.
The Reporter.
The reporter is stationed by the flag.
Why by the flag?
As the flag covers the United States of America, so I strive to inform the people that every man, woman, and child may know that the FFA is a national organization that reaches from the state of Alaska to the Virgin Islands and from Maine to Hawaii.
The Treasurer.
Stationed by the Emblem of Washington.
Your duties there?
I keep a record of receipts and disbursements just as Washington kept his farm accounts, carefully and accurately. I encourage thrift among the members and strive to build up our financial standings through savings and investments. George Washington was better able to serve his country because he was financially independent.
The Secretary.
Stationed by the ear of corn.
Your duties there?
I keep an accurate record of all meetings and correspond with other secretaries wherever corn is grown and FFA members meet.
The Advisor.
Here by the owl.
Why by the owl?
The owl is a time-honored emblem of knowledge and wisdom. Being older than the rest of you, I'm asked to advise you from time to time as the need arises. I hope that my advice will always be based on true knowledge and ripen with wisdom. Madam Vice President, why do you keep the plow at your station?
The plow is a symbol of labor and tillage of the soil. Without labor, neither knowledge nor wisdom can accomplish much. My duties require me to assist at all times in directing the work of our organization. I preside over meetings in the absence of our president, whose place is beneath the rising sun.
Why is the president so stationed?
The rising sun is the token of a new era in agriculture. If we follow the leadership of our president, we shall be led out of the darkness of selfishness and into the glorious sunlight of brotherhood and cooperation. Madam President, all officers are at their stations.
Thank you. The secretary will now call the roll of members.
There are 6 members present and multiple guests.
Thank
Madam
you.
President.
FFA members, why are we here?
To
To practice brotherhood, honor agricultural opportunities and responsibilities, and develop those qualities of leadership which an FFA member should possess. May we accomplish our purposes, I now declare this meeting of the Brainerd FFA chapter duly open for the transaction of business or attention to any matters which may properly be presented. What are the wishes of the assembly?
Madam President,
Yes, Ella.
I move that our FFA chapter host farm tours at the Crow Wing County Fairgrounds for K through 2nd graders in ISD 181 on May 25th.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded that our FFA chapter host farm tours at the Crow Wing County Fairgrounds through K through 2 in the ISD 181 district on May 22nd. Is there any discussion?
Madam President,
Yes, Ella.
I feel this is a great opportunity for our FFA chapter as we do egg time on Fridays once a month. So I feel that if we let the 2nd graders see what we actually do with animals present, I feel that would be a great opportunity for them to learn how to handle animals and also animal safety. Also, we could get some smaller kids, like kindergartners and 1st graders, interested in agriculture before we do egg time. So therefore, I urge you to vote yes on this motion.
Madam President.
Yes, Audrey.
I agree with the previous speaker as we have ag time, and this event can show kids that agriculture is not just present in their classroom, that agriculture is also so many different things, and one of the many aspects is the kiddie barn, this event. Therefore, I urge you to pass this motion.
Madam President,
Yes, Alyssa.
I am against this motion because I feel that our kindergartners and some preschoolers get a better enrichment when they are just with us, and I feel they get more one-on-one time when we have a smaller group of children, and I feel that they just get more out of it. So therefore, I urge you to vote against this motion with me.
Madam President,
Yes, Bailey.
I'm for this motion because I feel if we invite the K through 2nd graders, we only teach egg time to 2nd graders, so if we invite kindergarten through 2nd grade, it will give us a better opportunity, and we will most likely have more participation through egg time and as we go along. So I urge you to pass this motion.
Madam President,
Yes, Ellie.
I am in favor of this motion. I believe that it's good to expose these kids to what agriculture really is and what really is being put into farming, that their food just doesn't come from the grocery store. There's a lot more behind that. So I urge you to vote yes for this motion.
Madam President,
Yes, Ella.
I feel that farm tours are a great experience the kids will have. They get to see animals in person. Not many people get to see farm animals in person. Most of people live in town now. Not many live in rural areas. So I feel that if we show them animals in person, how to handle them safely, and how they can get their goods from the animals, I think that it would be a great experience for them in the future.
Madam President.
Yes, Bailey.
I agree with the previous speaker. I think this is a great opportunity to help our fellow K through 2nd graders get more hands-on learning, and not because as you have previously said, we only do more learning in classrooms, so this is a second chance for them to do hands-on learning activities.
Madam President.
Yes, Audrey.
I move that we have pizza at our next meeting. Madam President,
Yes, Audrey.
I move to withdraw my motion.
Are there any objections from the assembly? Seeing none, motion withdrawn. We are now back to the main motion that our chapter hosts farm tours at the Crow Wing County Fairgrounds for K through 2 in the ISD 181 school district on May 25th. Is there any discussion?
Madam President,
Yes, Alyssa.
as I previously stated, I am against this motion. I feel that we have more to discuss upon, and I feel that we need to make sure that we have enough membership and enough participation that we can actually carry through with this. So therefore, I urge you to vote against this motion.
Madam President.
Yes, Audrey.
I disagree with the previous speaker. I feel this event will be beneficial because it will help spark interest in this group of kids in agriculture and spread our mission to influence these elementary students. Therefore, I urge you to pass this motion.
Madam President,
Yes, Ella.
I previously stated that I am for this motion. I still believe in that, but we need to sort some things out right now if we are going to do this. So, like busing. kids will be at school on this day, so we need to figure out how they're going to get to the Crow Wing County Fair at the time, and will be permission forms sent out to parents and stuff like that, so I think we need to figure that stuff out at this.
Madam President,
Yes, Audrey?
I move that we take a 10-minute recess.
Second. It has been moved and seconded that we take a recess of 10 minutes. Are there any amendments? Madam President? Yes, Ella? I move to amend the recess by striking 10 minutes and inserting 3 minutes. Is there a second?
Second.
It has been moved and seconded that we amend the motion of a 10-minute recess to insert for a 5-minute recess. 3-minute recess, sorry. Are there any more further amendments? Seeing none, we will now proceed to vote on the amendment. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say no.
No.
Noes have it, motion failed. We are now back to the motion that we take a 10-minute recess. Are there any further amendments on that motion? Seeing none, proceed to vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no.
No.
Noes have it, motion failed. We are now back to the main motion that our FFA chapter hosts farm tours at the Crow Wing County Fairgrounds for the K through 2 in ISD 181 on May 25th. Is there any further discussion?
Madam President,
Yes, Alyssa.
I raise a question of privilege.
What is your question?
Maybe we take off our jackets. It is warm.
No, you may not. Is there any further discussion?
Madam President,
Yes, Bailey.
I move to refer this motion to a committee of 3 with the power to report back and appointed by the chair.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded that we refer this motion to a committee of 3 with the power to report back appointed by the chair. Is there any discussion?
Madam President.
Yes, Ellie.
I believe that having a committee would really benefit us with really helping us organize, and it would also, believe, would also help our chapter and all of our members. So I urge you to vote yes for this motion.
Madam President,
Yes, Audrey.
I am not in favor of referring this motion to a committee because if we plan on having this event in May, in the spring, we need to start acting now. And if referred to a committee, this will not allow us to start action immediately as we will need to wait for our next monthly meeting for this committee to report back. Therefore, I'm not in favor of referring this motion to a committee.
Madam President. Yes, Bailey.
I have previously moved this to a committee because I feel there has been very good discussion and lots of it, but because of time shortage and other reasons, we should move this to a committee and then they can decide. You can always report to the committee and they can give us an update next meeting.
Madam President,
Yes, Alyssa.
as I stated before, I am against the main motion, but I feel that referring it to a committee is also a bad idea, so I'm against that. I feel that we need to further debate on this so we really know what is going on, and I feel that referring it to a committee would just kind of be a waste of our time. So therefore, I urge you to vote against this motion.
Yes, Ellie.
I am not in favor with our last previous speaker. I believe that, as our fellow officers have stated before, that this should be discussed now, and with having a committee, I believe that would really benefit us in the long run, since this is a short period of time. But I believe with the committee, it could really help us move forward. So I urge you to vote yes for this motion.
Madam President? Yes, Ella. I cannot stand behind this motion. I feel that if we refer this to a committee, we will not have enough participation in the members. We've had trouble with committees in the past, so I feel that this would not be a good use of our time by referring this to a committee. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, we will now proceed to vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no.
No.
Noes have it, motion failed. We are now. Division has been called. All those in favor, please rise. You may be seated. All those opposed, please rise. You may be seated. 1 in the affirmative, 4 in the negative, noes have it, motion failed. We are now back to the main motion that our FFA chapter hosts farm tours at the Crow Wing County Fairgrounds for ISD 181 on May 25th. Is there any further discussion?
Madam President,
Yes, Alyssa.
I move to suspend the standing rule of our meetings being at 4 o'clock so that our next meeting meet at 3 because of a conflicting basketball game.
Is there a second? Second. It's been moved and seconded that we suspend the rules of our meeting starting at 4 and that the next meeting start at 3 due to a basketball game later in the day. Are there any amendments? Seeing none, we will now proceed to vote. All those in favor, please rise. You may be seated. All those opposed, please rise.
You may be seated. 1 in the affirmative, 4 in the negative, noes have it, motion failed. We are now back to the main motion that our FFA chapter hosts farm tours at the Croydon County Fairgrounds for K through 2 and IC 181 on May 25th. Is there any further discussion?
Madam President,
Yes, Ellie.
I rise to a parliamentary inquiry.
What is your inquiry?
Does an amendment need a second?
Yes, it does.
Thank you.
Is there any further discussion on this topic? Seeing none, we will now proceed to vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no.
No.
Ayes have it, motion passed. Is there any other further business which may properly be presented? Seeing none, meeting adjourned.
Good job.
Do we get to ask a question?
At the end of their performance, the judges ask them parliamentary procedure questions. Each of them gets an individual question, plus a question about parliamentary rules. Part of it, they have to take a test virtually next week. They took the test already
Yeah,
for
we
state.
took the test.
A virtual test that's all about parley knowledge and organization of a business meeting, that sort of thing. So Sunday afternoon, 2 weeks.
Okay, so interesting. So I've never heard division. Have you ever been part of a division? So
I
John's,
was
you
at
were?
the,
Okay.
absolutely, at the delegate, when I was delegate at the state MSBA thing.
Okay.
We had division a bunch of times on stuff.
Would you like me to explain what it means?
Yes, please.
So division can be called if the vote is kind of unclear, so it's called after I make the ruling, but as long as no further business comes up after I hit the gavel, then they can still call division. So division is when the vote's unclear and a member wants a clear vote, so then it's a rising vote, is
Okay.
basically all it is.
So you did it twice. So is it, you had to do it because of the amendment on that?
So the division was called for the amendment, and then a couple of the other ones where they had to stand, those motions need a rising vote because some of them, either members need to have notice and whatever, it's kind of funky.
Wow, it's impressive.
Yeah.
Suspend the rules requires a 2/3
Yes.
vote, so they gotta make sure.
Okay. That was my question.
So most of the motions are from a majority vote, but are there, just as suggested, there are other percentages that need to have passed the vote?
Yep, there are
Can you give
other-
us some of those examples?
So suspend the rules is one, previous question is also another one, so previous question ends all debate, and then we go straight to the vote on that topic if it's passed.
Is that the same as calling the question?
No.
No?
Previous question?
Yeah.
Calling the
Calling
question?
the previous question. Basically, you want to end discussion
That's just
now and-
abbreviated for that, which is saying we're going to vote to stop talking about it. And
That was
vote.
on their list, one of them missed it, so.
Well, I'd like to call the question.
I won't tell them to fess up, but that's why we practice, right?
Do you guys have a favorite that you draw ahead of time or beforehand, right? Do you have a favorite when somebody draws it, you're like, yes, we get to do that one?
Well, we don't know, like, for competitions, we just pretty much go in blind. We don't know what the motion's gonna be about. We don't know what the motions list is going to be that they're going to have. All I have to do is remember which motions do what and the votes and the seconds and all that. So I kind of have to give credit to these guys because they have to know what all the motions do and whatever, but I have to know how to call them out and stuff, so.
Their slip of paper has all the motions on it, or their 5 motions, and one of them's highlighted for each person, a different motion's highlighted, so they have to make sure they get that motion done, plus an additional motion that isn't even on their list, so.
So,
Yeah.
so when you go to the state competition, you won't have seen your slips ahead of time. They're going to hand them to you and you have to.
1 minute to look
1
at
minute.
them.
I'd recommend you take Janet with you to your competition.
You do, but you do have something in front of you. You only get it like a minute before the competition starts.
Yep.
Okay.
Scratch paper, they can take notes.
Okay. I don't have a question, but I have a comment. You young ladies, I hardly heard the word Sometimes as adults, every sentence is You guys really spoke with conviction and you knew what you were talking about. And when you do that, you don't need ums. So I congratulate you on that.
Thank you. Are there any other questions from anybody in the room?
No, but I have a comment.
I invited this organization to come to a new PTO group who had never done parliamentary procedure. And it was an amazing lesson when I was at Riverside. We had a whole new parent PTO group. And we invited the FFA team in and they performed and kind of helped us learn the process because a room full of adults did not know it well.
Yeah.
So thank you. I don't know if you take your show on the road. Obviously, you took it here.
Just taking the show on the road would be intimidating for a new PTO group, but we're more than welcome to even do a simplified, like, here's some basics of Parley Pro, you know, how to do a motion and amend it, that sort of thing. So we're more than happy to, definitely. It gives them practice and gets our name out there and shows that we're more than just agriculture, you know. So
I've had an opportunity to be at the state FFA down in the cities where you invite a lot of local elected officials there, and what you young people do down there as well as locally is, as Randy said, is absolutely wonderful. And we as board members or as community citizens always talk about lifelong learning and carrying our educational programming to lifelong. And this is a great example of it. This is a great example of FFA and what they have and will continue to do. I'm still mourning over the loss of the farm, but that's a whole nother issue. And I hope to someday maybe that, you know, we as a community can do something about that. Maybe, we'll see. But I just know that, and one of the things that's so impressive is it's not just about, you know, the egg like you have continually said. It's about, as Randy said, learning how to speak in public. It's about standing up. It's about voicing your opinion. It's remarkable every time I am able to see a FFA group. So nice job. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Well done.
Okay, can I put one person on your group on the spot? Sure. I think you have another award winner in your group. Ellie?
What? Oh, no.
Oh, come on. You said it's a phenomenal reflection of your advocacy. So don't be bashful.
Okay. Thanks.
Sorry. I didn't mean to turn you red, but it's pretty impressive.
No. So what she's talking about is Crow Wing County had their dairy banquet on April 1st. I personally ran for dairy ambassador for Crow Wing County, and now I am your guys' ambassador, community ambassador for Crow Wing County. That's like exciting news.
Thank you for sharing.
If you go look at my mom's post, Carly Hoffman, you'll find that she embarrassed me on Facebook. So if you want chuckles and laughs, there you go.
Thank you for.
University of Minnesota.
Down at the University of Minnesota, Twin Cities. Usually we're in Mariucci Arena, but this year we're in Williams Arena for the big sessions. We do stuff at the State Fairgrounds Monday morning. Go down Sunday in just under 2 weeks from now. So these guys will compete Sunday afternoon. Most of the competitions are Monday morning, so pretty much all of these young ladies are in a separate career development event. Monday morning they compete. So
Do you guys want to say what
there's different workshops and general sessions. 5,000 FFA members from across the state. So good time.
The other thing I hope you continue doing is the kiddie barn at the county fair, because the kids really get, you do a remarkable job out there with the young people out there as well. Thank you for that.
And you guys did awesome. You didn't appear nervous at all. So let's thank them again for their time. Yeah, we understand.
The takeaway is that they stood up when they wanted the board chair to recognize them. Just thought I'd put it out there.
There was a motion for pizza too.
I did, I saw that, yeah.
It's not dinner. Okay.
All right, that concludes presentations for this evening, so we'll move on to new business. Our first action item under new business is the approval of a perpetual utility and temporary easements for the Harrison Safe Routes to School project with the City of Brainerd as presented by Reed Teesey.
Okay, well, that's a tough act to follow. I don't think mine will be quite as riveting. For the last 2 years, we have been working on our second version of Safe Routes to Schools in the Brainerd School District area here, mainly with the City of Brainerd. So back in, well, it was pre-construction, so they did the first round of Safe Routes to Schools projects in the Lowell and Garfield communities. This second version that was started in 2021 focused on Harrison, Riverside boundary areas, with the main project being identified in front of Harrison Elementary on Oak Street. And so in front of you today are some legal documents, mainly more so easements for the utility improvements for the Safe Routes to Schools project, which they're looking to go out to bid with here this spring. So they're looking to do those improvements this summer. The first document is the perpetual and construction easements, perpetual being the south 5 feet of the block of Harrison Elementary for the road improvement project. The temporary easement would be for the utility infrastructure as part of construction going in, which would include the rapid flash beacons, crossing signals that would be installed on Oak Street, which I can state their effectiveness in the project that we installed on Laurel Street when I was with Crow Wing County. They're a very effective traffic control measure. So,
are we going to approve these all four at the same time or one at a time?
you can,
They're all the same project, right?
It's all the same project. It's an easement document. It is a waiver of compensation for that easement. And then it is, I think it's just an early notice letter as well as the owner's packet in there. So really 2 documents that are required to be signed.
So it's just 4 pieces of documentation under one singular
That's what I'm
action
thinking.
item? Yes.
Why don't we get the FFA girls back in here and ask them? I'd make a motion that we just accept all 4. I don't know how it's supposed to be written. Janet?
I'll do it, taken care of. And I'll second it.
All right, we have a motion by Director Donnelly and a second by Director Brecken to approve the, as presented, the motion as presented. Any further discussion?
There's no cost to the school district for any of this, correct?
That is correct. This entire project is being funded by the Minnesota Department of Transportation for those improvements.
Thank you.
Yep. And the if you're so interested, we have some of those. You'll see on the utility easement document, there's a picture of what that Safe Routes project would look like. But there have been a couple of stories over the past couple of years of the layout of that the project and on-street parking and a number of other things around that Harrison site that the city of Brainerd has been taking up. So,
Any other questions or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed signify same sign. Hearing none, motion carries. Thank you, Director TC. All right, next up we have Angie Bennett with the approval of the Collaborative Service Workers Employee Handbook.
Okay, I have 2 items in regard to the collaborative workers. The first is the compensation and benefit handbook of the collaborative service workers, as was provided to you in your packet. This is to prepare for kind of the transition from the collaborative workers from Sourcewell to Brainerd Public Schools under the ADSES grant. And so we kind of created an employment agreement. It's an at-will agreement at this time, and kind of follow similar language to our other handbooks. We did look and work closely with Sourcewell in regard to their average daily wage to make sure we were trying to remain cognizant, looking at the different licensures among the group. Currently, this group does not all hold social worker licenses, so that's why we're starting in the handbook. The goal would be to get them to the school licensure level, and then we would transition them to the certified handbook or certified contract. So that's kind of the overall goal. This is kind of the interim. Once this is approved, we do plan to post and then interview for those positions coming up in May.
So, Sourcewell's taking care of this for us now,
Yes.
and we're going to take these over to the district. And
Yes,
we're
they've
doing
been
that
working
because
in
we
our
have an
building.
Access grant?
ADSES, yep.
ADSES. So where did that come from? Is it from the state? Is it from Sourcewell? Where's it from?
So our collaborative workers have been with the district, are working in the district over 20 years. And they operated underneath the umbrella of the Crow Wing County Family Service Collaborative. And what happened is, so there's 3 school districts in Crow Wing County: Crosby, Pequot, Brainerd. So collectively, we've elevated our ADSES dollars, which is an alternative service delivery grant for intervention, also local time study dollars, which are generated from the county level. And the 3 school districts, which represented all of Crow Wing County, use those dollars for collaborative workers in their buildings. Those contracts, basically all Sourcewell was a fiscal host for that. They held those contracts and they did that. Crosby pulled out, which then removed that. And so part of it, Pequot then went and hired their own, which is what Brainerd's on the motion to do. Sourcewell could no longer be the fiscal host just for one district because Sourcewell's goal is to represent and have programs that are reproducible across the region. So over the last year, these positions have been migrating. We're still using the same funds to pay for them, ADSIS grants, local time study dollars. Pequot Public Schools and Brainerd Public Schools have agreed to continue to be in the Family Collaborative Service Agreement or the operation with the county. So it's having to shift. It's really the movement of dollars, basically keeping the same work and the same positions they've been doing and the same funding. We just had to create the different fiscal host for them.
Where does the grant come from? Is it from the county?
State.
How many years is the grant for? Is it every year?
We write it for 2 years at a time. So ADSIS, it's an alternative service delivery grant. And so we use those dollars for collaborative service workers, and also additional interventionists have been written into that grant this year.
So
And
just so I understand.
Yep.
So these collaborative service workers are employees of Sourcewell now, but Sourcewell was just, we were giving them our grant and they were paying everybody to come work in our school?
So basically what it was there's multiple, there's dollars coming from the county, there's state dollars coming from the ADSIS grant. So what would happen is they were held in contracts with Sourcewell because they were happening countywide.
Would the
And that
same
was-
person work at Pequot, Crosby, Brainerd, like today they're in Brainerd, tomorrow they're in Pequot?
No, we held their own workers, and that's why Crosby pulled out, and that's what started this whole thing in motion, right? Because they were no longer staying in that county arrangement with the Crow Wing County Collaborative. So in doing that, and when Pequot made the decision, hey, we're gonna bring on our 2 workers, no longer could you have a county host within a regional operation, so we had to bring in workers back in. So that's why we've created the handbook to have our Brainerd workers part of the Brainerd school system. The same funding's being used. What used to happen is Sourcewell would invoice, and the district would then take the local time study dollars and the ADSIS dollars and pay that bill back.
Dr. Hahn, was there any, Mr. Chair, Dr. Hahn, was there any discussion with Sourcewell of other school districts being interested to come on board, replacing Crosby and Pequot Lakes to remain that cooperative kind of regional agreement?
So, and again, it's a Crow Wing County Family Collaborative Service.
Yep.
And so the only 3 public schools in Crow Wing County are Pequot, Crosby, Brainerd.
Okay.
So in order to operate with the local time study dollars, you have to stay in that county umbrella. So if other districts want, I think I have to list, there's five counties in Region 5, so you have to look at Wadena and Cass, and they operate their own family service collaborative in the county. So this is how Crow Wing County, in partnership with the schools, is operated. So our goal is to keep the work that's going on and the support that's happening. One of the original reasons 20 years ago to have an outside source was because really then they weren't a county employee, they weren't a school employee. So some of the regulations and rules that apply to either a county worker or a school worker, they could go between those 2 because they were housed in a different fiscal host. For example, one example would be they could, if a student was missing school or things like that, currently the collaborative worker can drive in their vehicle, go to the house, get the student, bring the student to school. You cannot do that as a school employee unless you're in a type 3 vehicle. So again, the forethought 20 years ago when we started to put these programs in place was remove as many barriers as possible to create maximum service between family, county, and school. And that's been the role of that collaborative worker.
How many people are we talking about?
There's a total of 9.
Oh, 9 people?
Mr. Chair? Yeah. What does this affect, how does it affect our budget?
It doesn't because it's out of the ADSIS grant.
ADSIS and local time study dollars.
And local time study.
So it's a cost-neutral program to the district.
Yep.
In order to keep it cost-neutral, then you have to leverage those funding sources and shift. And basically, that's what's done. So they're acting as school social workers. We do not have school social workers on site. Our collaborative workers have been operating in that role. Bringing them into this arena will now put them under the direct supervision of their building principal, so they'll be more in that capacity of working as a school social worker.
So do we have more control over these employees now because they are an employee of the school district?
Yes, we created a new job description, and we actually met with the whole group last week and kind of reviewed the job description, answered any questions that they had, and reviewed this handbook too, just so they knew what was coming. But yes, it'll become more of a building-focused position rather than kind of reporting directly to the county. So we will have more input on kind of the work that they're doing.
And the intent is to still keep them collaborative. So when you look at, there's 2 workers up in Pequot in times of crisis, when it's happening either in the district or in a county level, this is a team that bands together and really has quick access to lots of resources based on the role they have. For example, a family fire might be one. Where those workers come together and they branch out into the resources and then help provide support back, which typically isn't the role of the school and it hasn't been the role of the county. So that's how they've leveraged these workers.
Mr. Chair. Angie, just 2 questions, or a comment and a question. The collaborative workers do a remarkable job in our schools, working in some very difficult situations, and Michelle, you know that better than all of us in here. And so thank you, collaborative workers, for what you do. Second, the question is, so as you develop this handbook, is Education Minnesota on board with everything as well?
Yes, I've met with the certified unit as well about the collaborative workers coming over to Brainerd, kind of talk through the handbook with them, why we're moving in this direction, so they're fully aware and supportive of that.
Thank you.
Are they going to be required to get school social work license eventually, or is that?
Potentially. I mean,
Okay.
right now, 4 of the 9 do hold a state social worker license, so it was kind of a predicament we were in is, well, you could move some into the certified and some into the handbook, and that kind of gets wonky, and then we'd have to create different job descriptions due to the licensure. None of the workers currently are licensed under PELSB, and so we kind of created this. We did input, as you can see in the handbook, incentive for individuals to get a social worker license. So when we met last week, we talked individually with everybody as well, and some are looking to move towards that. Maybe they've had the degree but never sought licensure because it wasn't needed for their current position. So the goal is to kind of get them all into that school social worker, and then we would review the job description, see what different layers we could embed in that under that license, and then kind of do that shift. Yep.
And I do have to give a shout out to Cara Griffin at the county. This is a lot of extra work to keep all of that intact for 2 districts. So, and the collaborative requires both superintendents to be engaged. So Cara Griffin is taking a huge lead at the county to keep all these systems in place. So we're very grateful. And it's been about a year's worth of work to get to this point. When we get to the next motion, I'll talk about how Sourcewell is kind of helping bridge the gap too.
Yep.
So, but reason Sourcewell was originally in place is to keep that fiscal host and that employment outside of school county because of the nature of the work.
So this is our only option.
To keep them,
yes.
But I mean, there's no other company, there's no other Sourcewell type of people that we could sub this out to?
No.
My concern, and I'm not that concerned, but we're not exactly rolling in the dough these days, is that in the future, it's gonna be retirement, health insurance, all those things, when they come on with us, right now, if they retired, it would be Sourcewell's deal, right? And we're gonna assume that liability. So are we gonna pay the same wages, or are we gonna start to bank money to pay that in the future?
Well, the way it's structured, if you see in the handbook, what we did was we looked at the average daily wage for the collaborative workers
I went
based on their
through it.
years of experience. The one thing we found is that everybody in the contract or the agreement with Sourcewell had a different number of days. So they might have a similar daily rate. They kind of had a step system. They're all a bachelor's level of education, but some might have 150 days, where another had 240, and another one had 220. And so it kind of was all over the place. So the salaries were adjusted accordingly with their daily rate. What we did was to kind of follow the calendar, the 184 certified calendar, plus the additional 19 days that we typically do with like lead positions or other positions. TOSA, some of those positions have that additional 19 days to kind of create a schedule across the board. So everybody's following that. So it was some navigating. It's not at the certified level of pay because they don't hold that licensure. So it was trying to go below that, making sure that we were doing that, but also trying not to make it so low based on the reduction of days that they would not want to come work for us. So it was kind of playing with those things. There was a lot of shifts because they were pretty much, some of them were year-round, so they had a lot more vacation than we do, where we have the embedded breaks in our schedule. They did not have that. So it's a lot of navigating through all of those things. So, I mean, really, there's, as Dr. Hahn had said, it's neutral. I mean, we've been paying this amount before. We're just now going to be paying them directly versus paying Sourcewell. But you're correct that we are now including them as our employees. So there's more administrative work.
Yeah, and we've taken, the unemployment piece would be one, but we've taken into account looking at the 2 funding streams that can be utilized to have these positions and watching that stream. They're at-will employees. So there's not a continuing contract piece. So it's going to be very dependent. And this group for their entire employment has been very cognizant of their positions are dependent on those funding streams as they come in.
Yep.
So.
And they just work at Brainerd schools. Like you said that some of them work 240 days. Do they go work someplace else then in the summer?
They do some stuff in the county, but it's mainly their whole site is Brainerd Public Schools, but they might be working independently with families, not specifically in our buildings. So it's kind of trying to rein that in, so we'll see a lot more of the collaborative workers in the hopes. I mean, we're still going to be honoring, obviously, the family relationships, the county relationships, all the resources in the community, but really wanting to have that present and working directly with our students on site more as well, and try to remove some of that transportation that a lot of them had done a lot of transportation, and that might be shifting back to the county.
But those time study dollars that come from the county are meant to have that broader intervention and support as well. So they really are that liaison.
Mr. Chair, I'll move approval of the handbook as presented.
And I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion by Director Ward with a second by Director Brecken to approve the Collaborative Service Workers Employee Handbook as presented. Any further discussion? Director Heidman?
Angie, how many of these people do we figure will be applying then for these positions?
Well, it sounded like, I mean, I think the majority, if not all of them, will apply for the positions. I'm not positive. I mean, it is a big shift for them as well, so that's why we wanted to present the job description, kind of what the transition is going to look like, what the pay impact is, because there is a pay impact. They're working a lot less days, so there's going to be a reduction in their overall salaries. So that's a consideration for them all individually. The hope is that they will apply to continue work in our buildings because they have a longstanding relationship with the kids. And so that would be a great thing to continue, but I don't have any control over that, so I'm hopeful.
So these folks hold degrees, they just have not gotten a license?
Correct, it was not considered mandatory under the collaborative, so.
Okay.
And why do we want it?
Why do we want the collaborative services workers?
No, but if it's not mandatory for them to have a license, then why is it so important to us? Why do we want to pay more for it? Are they going to do anything different, or are they just going to do a piece of paper?
They could do
They'd
a
be
lot
smarter.
different, yeah. I mean, so they could also aid the school counselors with a school social worker license.
Or they could move up type of a situation.
Well, there's different things you can do under the licensure. So we're limited if they do not have that school licensure, like they couldn't go do direct service in the kind of the mental health arena and kind of supporting that work without that license. They could still be that liaison, but there would be many more duties that they could do to support kids with that licensure.
I see.
I'm going to abstain from voting.
Great. Any other questions for Director Bennett? Any other discussion? If not, then all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0 with one abstention. Director Spear abstained.
Thank you, and thank you, Dr. Hahn, for explaining that because you did it much, much better than I could have.
Yeah, it's been a lot of work of
Right,
funding
and then
stream
on the
changes.
heels of that, we've got, right after that, we have the amendment to the workers agreement as well now to approve.
Yep, so this is originally the collaborative services agreement that we held before was set to expire December 31st. There wasn't it? And then they extended it out to June 30th.
Correct.
And so as we were looking through this transition and having them start next school year, there was kind of a light bulb moment, like, where are they going to do with insurance? Because if they lose their position, their current position, they would also lose their benefits. And so we worked with Sourcewell and the district to kind of try to bridge them because their insurance would not be effective September 1 through the district based on our agreements. So Sourcewell did agree to extend through August 18th, which would allow them to have their insurance all the way through August, and then they would start mid-August on our agreement and our schedule to support the school.
Who's paying for that?
It's all the same that we've all been paying.
No, are we paying for that or Sourcewell?
Well, Sourcewell is doing it, but it
It's the same,
funds out
yeah.
of our
They're gonna bill us for it.
grant. They will bill us for the funding, but it's already in existence, if that makes sense. So it's not an additional expense from what we were paying previously. It is just trying to continue their work on through the summer.
Okay, let me just wrap my head around that issue. So are they an employee? Who are they employed by during this period
Sourcewell
of
is their
time?
employer.
Right now?
Right now.
Yes.
And will
they will be
continue
through
until the new
August
school
18th.
year?
Yep,
If they apply and we hire?
yep,
And then they'll go under our district
agreements. Yep.
benefits?
Starting September 1 would be the benefits, yep.
So they're going to maintain their current health insurance, and Sourcewell's going to be paying for that?
Yep, through August 31st.
Okay. Thank you.
But it's the two same pots of money that are,
Yep.
so really you're just looking at a fiscal hold transaction?
It's a shell game, Randy.
It's about what it is, I mean, it is.
Yeah. What happens if
That
they,
is.
what happens if they don't apply?
One over here, and then you
Yeah,
give it back
okay.
to
If
me.
they don't apply, then we would seek out, so worst case scenario, nobody applies. I think we would relook at the job description and the needs of the districts, and maybe it would be a lower number of school social workers. I don't know, so I think what we're trying to do is do a transition period, and because these folks have been working in our buildings, they have kind of a game plan on how they do their work, is to transition that, and then as we go, continue to look at the needs and what would it look like if they were all school social workers, and then having those discussions with everybody.
So this amendment is simply dealing with health insurance?
It's continuing them on their Sourcewell contract through August 18th so they can maintain health insurance. But they do have some duty days embedded in their agreement.
Okay.
Well, Mr. Chair, I do hope that, a lot of us have talked about, mental health services in our school districts and the need for it nationwide, and including the Brainerd area, including Minnesota area, including nationwide. And these folks are in the mental health area. They are critical for the mental health of our children. And so I understand all the liability of it, and I understand the cost of it and things as such, but if we lose 9 collaborative workers, if we got mental health problems now with our children, it's gonna multiply significantly quickly. So I think it behooves all of us to look beyond just the dollar figure. We can't afford, our kids can't afford to lose those mental health services, and our staff, and our buildings, and everything else. So I hope that everything works out, and that we're able to keep all of them.
I think it will.
Okay.
I'm hopeful too.
Well, I've got 2 things on that. Is that one is I don't think that anyone's trying to get rid of them. I was just curious if we could continue to sub it out. You talked about third-party billings. Is that what you were calling it here a couple meetings ago? It makes sense to me to keep that liability on somebody else if it works for them, and to sub that stuff out is all my first question was. And number 2 is I read the whole deal, and I don't see where it says that these collaborative service workers were mental health experts. It's
They work with the families.
It's a school code, Like, how am I supposed to know what a collaborative worker is? Maybe you guys should give us a little rundown in our thing so we know what you're talking about. That's why I'm asking all these questions. Is there 100 of them? Is there 500 of them, John? When I heard there was 9, it's like, oh, that's way better. I don't know how many there are. We're voting on something that we have really
Yeah, and it's,
not very good numbers, not very good. We don't have any totals. I don't know.
the hard part of this is the work's been going on for a year. So you guys, so with the turnover of the
So we're
board.
just late to the party.
Well, no, it's just, there's been multiple facets of it, because there was a 6-month period where Brainerd entered into an agreement with Sourcewell, because it used to be the Family Collaborative Service. Crow Wing County Family Collaborative Service entered into an agreement with Sourcewell to hold these employees and disperse them out to the schools. When that collaborative service agreement amongst the 3 districts started to change, that started this domino effect of what had to happen. The thing is too, the funds that support these workers, if we don't access those funds, you're just leaving funds on the table, right? So there's specific reasons these funds exist. So you want to maximize those funds. So you are right, DJ, with the question of, you're kind of mid-step in this process. So the previous board agreed that yes, we want to stay and have collaborative workers, Brainerd will enter in the agreement with Sourcewell to hold these workers, knowing that eventually they have to transition to the school. And so that's the work that's been happening in the middle of that work. So, and actually that was voted on the December meeting, I think I'd have to go back and look. In the middle of that work, what happened is, boy, if that ended in June 30th, like the original contract said it would, now we have a group of employees, several of which who have been 10 plus, we have one that's 20 plus years doing work in the district. We're now asking them, hey, we're gonna stop this, we're gonna lower your pay, and by the way, there's no health insurance for you for a couple months, which, why we didn't think of that, I had a panic moment driving in a vehicle and called Paul Drange at Sourcewell. Sourcewell agreed, that's right, we should not do that to the workers, so Sourcewell agreed to take on that and carry that on, which is what we're at. This is what you're approving, is to allow Sourcewell to continue that for 2.5 months, because our contract starts at the beginning of a school year. So it's taking those two
Well, that makes
contracts and
perfect
working.
sense.
Yeah.
No problem.
But I apologize for you are catching midstream with the.
But I think you
workers.
made a really good point as to what the position actually is, and thanks for asking that question, because I think a lot of people don't realize that it's, kind of the liaison person between home and school. And while teachers can't be at home with these kids, these folks can be interactive with them in a different way. So it's support and that teachers need, educators.
Variety of
and
issues.
families
It might
need.
be foster care, it might be homelessness, it might be,
Truancy.
truancy issues. They really take on a gamut, again, where the school administrator can't do that and the classroom teacher, but you have this kid sitting in your building with significant needs. And so they partner with the county, they get access to those resources to our families, and that's the intent. The power was when they were with a different host, there wasn't all these rules. Like we now have eliminated, we have lots of families who don't have vehicles, they struggle with transportation, then it leads to truancy. So our collaborative workers have had the freedom to just, I'm gonna go pick up Michelle today, put her in the car and get her to school because something's happening or there's a crisis happening. Now there's a lot more planning because in schools you can't do that. There's different rules, so.
Bummer.
But if you'd like the collaborative workers to do a presentation, I'm sure they'd love to.
I'll make a motion to approve the amendment to the Collaborative Service Workers Agreement as presented.
Second.
Is that you, Randy?
Yes.
Okay. All right, we have a motion by Director Donalinger, second by Director Heidman to approve the amendment to the the Collaborative Service Workers Agreement as presented. Any further discussion?
I'm going to abstain again.
Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries again 5-0 with Director Spear abstaining. Thank you, Angie.
Thanks, Andy.
And now the soulful stylings of Director Murtha. Some policies.
You missed them from last year, you know you did. Okay, what I'm bringing forward to you tonight, policies 607, 611, 613, 618. First readings, they can be the only reading if you so decide, since all of these are existing policies. None of the policies have made very significant changes. Two of the policies are policies that are just up for their 3-year review and just have some language documentation updates in terms of reference to which statute they own, that just the nomenclature has changed. For policy 607, there's one change to the policy. The district may now require documentation of student age to enroll in district programming. So we can ask for confirmation that you are the appropriate age to go to kindergarten or the appropriate age to receive service in an extended program. We've always asked for this in the first place. It is just not part of statute that grants us this. I don't believe it's a significant change to practice in any way. In policy 611, there are no substantial changes. It's just merely a 3-year required review. Graduation requirements is the same. In policy 618, there are 2 primary changes to this policy. First, language around Minnesota graduation requirements has been updated to reflect the Minnesota Academic Standards language. So you'll remember that years ago we used to talk about graduation Minnesota State graduation requirements. This was linked to a much older initiative on the profiles of learning for those of us who really can date ourselves. Somebody's decided to go through and clean up some statutory language. They've removed that and replaced it with the current language of the Minnesota Academic Standards, which more accurately reflects the work that we do. And finally, there is some language about communicating student participation in assessments. This is something we have always done. The opt-out form that is referenced in this policy that the Commissioner of Education is required to provide is on our website. It's been on our website for at least the 10 years that I've been here. So it's just ensconcing in policy practices that we have always done that were identified in statute. So it's just merely updates there. Would you care to address these policies collectively, or do you want to separate them out, 7, 11, 13, and 18?
Oh, you know me, I've got a couple of questions. On 613, what's the data and assessment coordinator? Do we have one now?
Yes, we always have.
Okay.
The data and assessment
red, so it's
coordinator
like-
is currently Ms. Anderson, Sue Anderson. She's also the MARS and STARS coordinator for the district. So she handles the calculation of ADM, average daily membership. She submits data to the state of Minnesota on student enrollment, and she sets up all the testing structures that are connected to the state of Minnesota for MCAs. You'll find that right now this is her busiest season of the year as she's managing testing in all the districts. On top of that, she also does data analysis work for me. So when I give a presentation on student achievement, she's the one providing the raw data that we analyze. That's her role.
When are the MCAs?
Right now.
Are they?
For the next month.
Mr. Chair? Tim, I've got a question on homeschooling. And I think I understand the definition of a homeschool is 5 or fewer students, correct?
That is correct.
Unless
And-
they're siblings.
Correct.
Huh?
Unless they're sibling group. We have sibling groups of 7 and 11 that are homeschooled, and they're still all considered homeschool because they're same family.
Okay.
So the statute's written so you don't basically create a new school
Okay.
and call it a homeschool.
Okay. So under paragraph Roman numeral 7, extracurricular activities, these people are considered resident pupils, and they have the ability to then to participate in extracurricular activities without some sort of a optional cooperative agreement. Is that correct?
For homeschool classified students, that is correct.
Okay.
It's different, though, from attending a parochial, private, or a charter school.
Correct. Those we're going to get, we need those optional cooperative agreements.
And that would fall out of my purview, and I know it exists. After that, I'm going to defer to Charlie for the details.
Sure. On the optional cooperative arrangements, Roman numeral 9, so if you got 6 or more students and they're not siblings, then they are considered to be a homeschool that needs to pay for participation in Minnesota State High School League, correct?
So the minute a school program hits 6, they actually are supposed to get a local education identification number. So this is, the reason the statute went into place was to prevent, I'm pretty sure there was some hockey person somewhere that probably said, I'm gonna go grab 6 from Canada and I'm gonna create a homeschool, right? And then they can still go play at Edina. Let's pick on Edina, because we
Right.
lost to them, right? And so, I mean, statutes get created because somebody did something that pushed the limits. So, but the Department of Ed will tell you, once there's 6 or more, then they basically are a non-public educational entity. And once you enter a non-public educational entity, the cooperative agreement comes into play. So,
That's,
unless you're a sibling group, like I said, we have some
Right.
large families that homeschool. This does not apply to them.
do we have any homeschools in our district that qualify as non-resident students?
No.
Non-resident
yeah.
or non?
So to be homeschooled, they have to be a resident of Brainerd. So if they're
Not a resident
non-resident,
of the school district.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
no, they have to be
Just for
residents
the
of Brainerd.
enrollment of the school district, okay.
Yeah.
So if they're not, then they'd become a resident of wherever they're outside of the Brainerd district boundary. So they'd be a homeschool student in Pillager or a homeschool student in Pequot. So it's based on their attendance boundary. So I can't live up in Pine River and choose to be a homeschool student in Brainerd. I'd be a homeschool student in Pine River because that's where I live.
I guess my question, I probably didn't ask it very good. Do we have any homeschools within our district where we have optional cooperative arrangements with?
We do not.
Okay.
Do we with any like of the other schools, the private schools?
We do have agreements. So we have participation agreements and cooperative agreements with private and charter and parochial, I mean, however you want to categorize. So there's 6 entities in the district. Jack and I got really good at this last summer, didn't we, Jack? Jack is now an expert in the state, just in case anybody wants to have any discussion about participation agreements or cooperative agreements.
Well, this was central to the letters that went out, was it late May last year?
It was a change of,
Right,
yeah.
because specifically related to the Minnesota State High School League elements. So if you're looking at like St. Francis or somebody like that, we had to have them sign the agreement so that they were.
And I was reading in there, they have to join the Minnesota State High School League.
Correct. The idea was, because what was
Once they
discovered, and
hit-
again, correct me if I'm wrong.
Once they hit 9th grade, so 9th grade, so let's, for example, Lake Region Christian School hosts K to 12. So if they're gonna have any participation, they have a different type of cooperative agreement because 9th grade is where a student declares high school eligibility. St. Francis is K-8, Starry Academy is K-6, Discovery Woods is K-6. Oak Street Christian can go higher, just depends on their student enrollment. So every year we look to review that. But we have lots of homeschool students that participate in our athletics and activities, have a long history. So there's a large active group.
Yeah, I just needed to get it in my head what the definitions were, et cetera. So thank you for clarification.
It gets confusing with the number because we do have families larger than 5.
I want to apologize to Jack for calling him Charlie.
Jeez, you're pretty young for this, yeah.
It's not the years, it's the mileage.
Could I have you hold for just a second, Director Ward? Just a point of clarification, Tim. Since we have just language changes to these 4, and I believe Director Ward's about to move to approve all 4 policies collectively. Do we have the option then to approve them as a final approval, or they still have to come back for a second reading?
No, I would recommend that they come to final approval on one vote. You don't need to bring them back unless you're feeling like you have more questions you wish to ask later.
So, Director Ward, if you're amenable to that, then the idea would be to move to approve them as final.
Correct. My recommendation is a single motion for all, one vote, be done.
So moved.
Well
Mr.
done.
Chair?
Well played.
Second.
We have a motion from Director Ward and a second from Director Spear to collectively approve policies 607, 611, 613, and 618 as presented and as final, without further reading. Is there any further discussion?
I'll look to you there, Chairman, is I've got a lot of questions on the graduation requirements, and I'd like to go through them, and if you think, Mr. Murtha, that we're better off that maybe we just prove the first 2 and put the ones on the second reading, then I could do this all offline, or would you rather I just did it here?
It is the purview of the board on how it conducts its business. I'm prepared to answer any questions that I can around policy 618.
You're thinking 613 or 618, or both?
Both.
Both.
Okay.
Well, I mean, I just feel like I should understand, since I got elected onto this board, I was under the understanding, I can just do one right now. Should I just do it? I was under the understanding that Minnesota got rid of graduation standards and graduation requirements in like 2015. And so then I read this stuff that's in this policy, and like in 5A, Achievement in career and college readiness in mathematics, reading, and writing as measured against a continuum of empirically derived, clearly defined benchmarks focused on students' attainment of knowledge and skills that students and their parents and teachers know how well students must perform to have a reasonable chance to succeed in a career in college without the need for post-secondary remediation. It's like, who does this? Who goes through this with the parents? Is what I want to know. And how are we knowing if they are meeting these standards? Do we do it with the MCAs? Do we do it with the NEPS, whatever the national tests are? How do you?
The NAEP?
I don't remember what the other one
To
is.
answer your direct question about item A, that is what the purpose of the Minnesota Comprehensive Assessment is.
That's what the MCAs are for.
Correct. They are there to indicate progress against standard and benchmark. Okay, so the structure of the standards is a standard is a general descriptor of learning. Think of it as a category of learning. And a benchmark is the grade level indicator of what that learning should look like at the completion of that grade. So it's mastery at the end of the year. And the MCAs that are conducted, let's look at reading and math in grades 3 through 8, which is therefore done annually, provide you graduated benchmarking data on how students are performing. With science, it's only done 3 times. It's done 5th grade, 8th grade, and at the high school. So your high school MCAs become your summative assessment on what has gone through your system. And that's the data I try to provide you during the data retreat and during the October and September data presentations to school board.
So do the parents get notified of the MCA scores? Sure.
Yes, absolutely. When
So
we
that's how you
receive,
achieve this, right?
well, what are you trying to achieve? Are you trying to achieve how we evaluate curriculum instruction and student performance, or are you asking about how we communicate to parents, which is a different portion of the policy? The answer is, once we get the official individual student records, called the ISRs, we ship them to parents. They come to us usually August, September at that point, and they're directly sent home. Some schools have sent them home backpack, some has mailed them home, but they must go home, and we do that every year, always have. In terms of evaluation of programming, that's what we do at the continuous improvement retreat in August, and the results of that are what gets brought to the school board for approval in September or October, depending on how we're trying to meet that October 15th deadline.
Well, I guess that then my last question is whether their scores are good or bad, do they graduate?
No, the state does no longer hold students against graduation for participation.
So whether they can do these things in this policy or not, they're still graduating.
Yes.
This
As long as they meet all
graduation
the other
requirements.
well, they
That's
have
got
to
me
meet the
confused.
other graduation requirements outlined in the policy. So the number of credits that are required for graduation at the high school, 2 in art, 8 in English, 6 in math, 6 in science, 7 in social studies, 2 in PE and health, 13 in electives. They have to do that to earn their Minnesota high school diploma. We no longer hold that. If a school district is found to have discrepancies in their data, where too many students, particularly if the students fall into certain categories, are not making progress or not performing at grade level, the district can be in corrective action with the Department of Education and receive guidance and directive from the Regional Center of Excellence on how to improve its programming. So there are consequences for the district if systemically we are not meeting grades. Now that falls to the bottom 5% of school districts in the state. We're nowhere near that. We're close to the top in most categories, but yes, it can happen. We have historically been identified for certain subpopulations, such as graduation rates for students in special education at the high school or at the LEC. I'm sorry, at the AEC. Okay, so yes, there are consequences. There's also benefits to taking the MCA. A student who is proficient on their high school MCA in any of those content areas, math, science, or reading, cannot be required at their own expense to take a remediation class in a MNSCU institution. So that means if I go across the street to CLC, they can't tell me that you're going to take remedial math, Timmy Murtha, because you struggled in math on the MCA. Because you were proficient. You showed evidence that you can do the math. So that remedial math class that you'd have to pay the credits for, but does not count towards your advancement towards graduation, you don't have to take. So there's a material benefit to performance for some students.
if they do well, if they take the MCA.
Correct.
So basically, just so I understand, because people ask me these questions, is if you show up and take the required classes, regardless of your performance, show up, do your thing, take your 3.5 social studies, your maths, you're graduating.
Correct.
Okay. That's
Take
all I
them and
know.
pass them. You have to.
You have to pass, you have to earn a
them.
passing grade, yes.
You have to pass the classes?
Right.
Well, that's nice. It's kind of an old-fashioned way of thinking about things, I don't know, you know?
You can't just show up, you gotta take them.
All right, well, I know all I need to know.
So you don't have to pass the MCAs to pass, to graduate?
Well, I figured that.
Or you don't have to meet
Well,
standards or exceed?
what year did that go? You used to have to.
You did,
Yes,
yes.
it was,
But that's been changed 2016.
it was before I was still in North St. Paul in those days.
15?
Okay, I was
Well,
thinking,
came in 2014.
Okay.
So I'm going to say this was 2013 with the rollout of the MCA 2s in language arts. They changed it from a general reading test to an
I'm
academic
looking at
test.
Andrew as a high school principal, because we could, 2010, thank you.
Okay.
So if they did not pass their
I don't
MCAs, they
feel,
did
I
not
don't
get
feel
their
quite as
diploma.
old now. I don't know why, but
I do.
I guess to put some punctuation on the conversation, the value of the MCA is it gives us a dipstick check on how instruction and curriculum are performing longitudinally. Any 1 year score doesn't really matter. It's not actionable data if a student in 11th grade performs X on the MCA. But if I have 5, 6 years of data on how students are performing on that, that's data that can inform the choices we make instructionally, inform the choices we make in terms of resource adoption and curriculum. It can inform choices we make in terms of structure of the school day and scheduling. It can even inform staffing decisions if it came to that. So there's value in this data. Brainerd's been very fortunate, extremely fortunate, that the community has supported testing long before I got here. We have an extremely high participation rate. Over 94% of our students, sometimes as high as 97, participate in the MCAs on any given year. That gives us very good data to make very good decisions about what we want to do and where we want to go. So my final point here is please thank you for participation in the MCAs.
Any other questions for Director Murtha? Any further discussion on the motion at hand?
Could you rephrase the motion? Where are we
Sure, so
at?
what's on the table is a motion by Director Ward with a second by Director Spear to approve policies 607, 611, 613, 618 as presented and as final with no further readings. So those in favor, signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, keep rolling on policies with the next batch of these.
Next batch are the second and final readings of policies 202, 414, 414.1, and 415. They were presented at the last board meeting. We received no further comment or question, and the policies as presented originally had minor changes, again, due to statutory linkages.
Motion.
All right, so that I would make a recommendation, you approve them in a bunch since it's a second and final reading with no input or further discussion for change.
Motion.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion from Director Donnellinger and a second by Director Brecken to approve the second and final reading of the MSBA policies 202, 414, 414.1, and 415 as presented. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next action item is the approval of changing the meeting time for the May 31st, 2023 Long Range Planning Committee meeting at 11 o'clock due to the Area Transition Learning and Skills, or ATLAS, graduation that's scheduled at the Lincoln Education Center at 1 o'clock that day.
So moved.
Second.
Can we even vote on it?
I don't know, do we have to abstain?
We do, it's been published. So they're published
We
meetings.
can vote.
Yeah, you two are the chair and the committee member.
No, you're gonna have like.
Our meeting. Aye.
The recommendation is to give you, so we have lots of graduations that are happening, and this was a graduation that we want to make sure you have the opportunity to attend all of them if you so choose.
Perfect. All right, so we do have a motion by Director Spear and a second by Director Heidman. Do we have any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. And action item number 7, approval for the school board to schedule and have a board retreat in June with a date and location to be determined. Discussion.
Sure.
Director Heidman.
Is this considered to be a school board meeting?
It will be.
Okay.
So it'll be public, it'll be published, there'll be a published agenda just like this meeting. One of the concerns we had is if you wait till May to make this motion, it doesn't give us a lot of time to track down location and dates. So we've heard that you'd like to have a retreat, but that gives us time to, you would think June's wide open, but it's not. There's a narrow scope because there's still lots of things happening.
But this is not in lieu of the June board meeting?
No.
Okay.
I mean, the fundamental concept behind it is it's not a business meeting. It's a dialogue, and, you know, it still has an agenda, right? But we're not constrained by.
It's not like a normal school board meeting either. You don't have to record it, but it's open. It's an open meeting. We have to
It's a
post
public,
it.
yep.
It's a public meeting,
Like-
but we can go off-site. We don't have to do it at the school.
Correct.
Which I think is probably a good idea. I would recommend one thing. I'm kind of crazy, but I'd like to see us do it in May, and I think we should just do it on a Saturday morning. We only have to meet for 3-4 hours. What's the big deal?
Sure.
Well, you don't have to come.
I do have to come and organize it all, put it together.
We don't have to take notes and all that stuff, you know? I
Yeah,
just,
it's a regular board meeting, so it's, all the procedures we'll have to follow. The interesting piece, like, from what I understand, the discussion that's been happening is you really want to have working sessions where you can learn more. So for example, school finance, right? So you do that initial training. So one of my thoughts was, we have this wonderful expert, Kathy Erickson, who works for the Department of Ed, who just thinks finance is like the coolest thing on the face of the earth. So, if that's something you want, it takes us time, so to rearrange to see if I could get Kathy Erickson to come up and do a specific training, or if you need more information around that topic. The other thing, we have 38 school days left, so 38 days of contacts with our kids, and so right now, we're on fast and furious with MCA testing, graduations. But I, as your superintendent, if you tell me May, we could try. It's just gonna be hard to get you the expertise outside of our directors that you may be seeking in that short dates. And
Well,
June is
that's-
also very full, so I just,
well, we could go to June. I guess that's just not what the MSBA was, you know, we picked this up at our partner ED thing, so I checked with them too. And that's just a totally different thing than what I was thinking. And the problem is we can't, you know, here we are doing it, but we can't meet as a group to ever discuss anything. You know, there's this deal with the partner ED people, Michelle and Sarah and I have gone quite a few of them. And they said, they're showing us the 10 most effective things of school boards. And one is to have some common goals. And I think that if we all got together, we could find some common goals. But all we do is come here and vote on agendas, and we never really know I don't really know what John's thinking. I kind of do. He kind of knows what I'm thinking. I wasn't looking for like a school on finance as much as a brainstorming. What are our goals? We're gonna have a strategic plan, which is gonna be great. That'll help. But maybe so we could all get on a little bit of our common ground without wasting everybody's time. It still has to be an open meeting, but we should just,
that's exactly what the retreat could be used for. So I think that's the other thing too, is the agenda items you want on that. So again, getting you that information, the resources, so we can create the agenda. So again, it's all public.
Agreed. And even without, you know, a lot of detailed subject matter experts coming in, you know, like you're talking about, to have a more, I don't want to call it informal, but a more free flow type of a conversation that's going to happen. I think, you know, pushing it past graduation makes a lot of sense from a timetable perspective.
That's fine.
Because I think what you're going to find as board members is the next 6 weeks are going to be pretty demanding on our time compared to what you've seen
Well,
since
you've been gone
January.
for a month. It's about time you get back to work.
And the demand on the staff, changing the subject, is astronomical.
Yeah.
You know, Janet and Dr. Hahn and everybody else, they're running pretty crazy here until school.
So honestly, I'm actually excited for you to have a board retreat, because I think as you get into this, the other things you consider is, you know, we've gone to committees, which is meant to make you experts in certain areas. There are some boards who move to one meeting as their regular board meeting where they're basically voting on business. Their other meeting is a working meeting. And so they kind of interplay those. So they replace those structures, so it's really open. But I agree, there's lots, especially when you're so new, me included, that you have those discussions. What are our common goals? What is our communication protocol? What is, I mean, the list can go on and on.
Will we, refresh me on the timeline, will we have at least a rough outline back from Partner Ed by, let's say, June, or are they still going to be condensing all of that stuff?
Their second meeting is May 10th, and so they're hoping by the end of May to kind of bring all of those pieces together, at least to have a rough draft to start moving forward. I think it'll be finalized. You, the board, have to finalize what that final strategic plan will look like, but I would think by the end of May, yeah, we'll definitely have that.
The other thing I'd say is that this is not meant to be a one-off. This is meant to sort of set a precedent, if you will, at least for this particular board, you know, to do these on some sort of cadence.
Wasn't
whatever
it,
that might
Lake,
be.
I think it was Lakeville schools, maybe? Was it Lakeville? Maybe it was South St. Paul. Anyways, they do one a quarter. A Saturday morning, they have breakfast brought in, and they go 8 to 11 or something. And once a quarter, they get together. So every 3 months, just a little 2-3 hour, 4 hour deal.
So I think my recommendation would be that we schedule one, and during that one, we
And
talk
then we'll
about how to
decide.
do the other ones. That
Great
would be,
idea.
that would be my
Terrific.
thought process behind it.
So is there a motion?
I'll
for
make a motion.
Motion for breakfast? We get to eat?
We'll feed you. Don't worry.
Mr. Chair?
As you know, otherwise we just sit here with this. We have to dig through the bag and find something.
We all have Mountain Dew there too.
That's it, thanks.
Yes, Director Heidman.
Yeah, my thought was when I was contacted, you know, about this, just in discussion, I am looking at this retreat as being more of a brainstorming session. Yeah, if we want to have an agenda, that's fine. I think we need an agenda, but to me, it was more of, you know, what are some of our individual thoughts?
Sure. Well, as a point of law, it has to have an agenda. It can be pretty loose, but it's got to have a published agenda.
But I think it's a good idea to have some of that work from Partner Ed back to help drive the conversation towards what our strategic goals are, or our strategic vision.
That's fine.
I mean, don't get me wrong, the stuff that we're talking about in these board meetings are very, very important. But there are some things that I would like to add to the board meetings, but, you know, the agenda seems to be full, you know, fairly full all the time. So if we're looking for, we're not looking for topics tonight, obviously. What are we looking for tonight? Are we looking for a date?
Do
Or
we
are we
just
just looking to say
approve the
approve it?
scheduling of one?
Just to get it going.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then we can give you options for dates and locations and.
Mr. Chair, I like what both Director Dunlinger and Director Heidemann just said on not just doing this once a year, but Saturday mornings, I think, are a great idea, in my opinion. That's my opinion as well. And what Director Heidemann said about not just having training session or whatever, but having some dialogue and some input and some, you know, let's talk about the school farm. Let's talk about mental health services. Let's talk, back a few months ago, we were asked about, you know, what we would like to see at a board meeting. And a lot of those discussions could occur, I think, on these kind of situations. And we could make them more personal and open, you know, kind of deal or whatever. However, I do want to say that your idea about May and having been involved in education, May is crunch time for all staff. So I think I like the idea of doing it a number of times a year. I won't say several, a number of times a year, and but not in May, in my opinion. That's just too much for our educational staff.
I'm just one of those people. It's like the tougher things get,
now.
let's get more shit done. Sorry.
And as
This is the
far
way
as-
I am. It's okay, I'm good with June, I made the motion.
Director Donlinger? Director Boyles has been gone a long time. I've been gone a long time. I was at Donlinger Chev this last Tuesday looking for you and you were gone. I can't figure that out.
I was probably out back shoveling snow or something like that, John, I don't know where I was.
I checked that.
These things called flight logs.
One of the other things I would like to see is more interaction with some of the principals at these retreats. You know, they're on the ground and, you know, just being able to ask some additional questions and getting some input. You know, we're a big school district. And, you know, the more we can involve people, I think the better off we are.
Well, I think, you know, great food for thought, right? I mean, and what we're seeking to do tonight is to schedule it. Then we can put a framework around it.
Okay.
And then I'd say all 6 of us can start loading that basket with whatever the heck
need
we
to
want
start
to
with
talk about.
us.
Gotcha.
And then maybe we can run out and talk to
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, I mean, I think,
Okay.
I mean,
Nope, I
because
understand.
I don't think that we need board action for the bullet points that go in the retreat once we schedule the retreat, right? We just need board action to empower Dr. Hahn and team to schedule the event. And then we'll figure out what goes in it.
Okay.
So we will look for, we'll send out, well, I'll wait till you approve, then I'll tell you what we'll
I'll
do for you.
second it.
Perfect. All right, then we have a motion by Director Donnellinger and a second by Director Brecken to approve a board retreat to be scheduled in June with a precise date and location to be determined. Is there any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Okay, we will
Motion carries.
begin work on getting you available dates and locations. We'll just get you
Yeah,
a
so
list.
as a takeaway, that's probably a good thing. I would suggest each board member start looking at your June calendars now, and maybe we get an email going around here rather quickly where we can identify any bad dates that we have and stuff like that.
We'll create a little Google form, send it to you.
All right.
Or a doodle, one of the two.
We move on to the informational section. We'll start with Director Spear and her update on the Brainerd Public Schools Foundation.
Couple quick things to share. So the scholarship recognition night is going to be May 3rd at Forest View Middle School, and we have over $180,000 to award to public school graduates this year, and that's up about $30,000 from last year, so that's pretty amazing.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Do you have a time yet?
I don't know.
I think it's on your agenda. So senior, it is 6 PM here at Forest View Middle School.
6 p.m.
6 p.m.
Thank you.
If you look at May 3rd, it's pretty busy because we also have educator excellence. There's lots going on. You start to look at May, it's going to get packed, so.
The other couple things I would share is we just had our second 4A grant cycle and awarded another almost $9,000. So that's a total of almost $50,000, so $48,758 between the two grant cycles this year. So that's pretty fantastic. And mark your calendar for May 17th, Pints for a Purpose fundraiser at Jack Pine Brewery for the Public Schools Foundation.
Maybe that's the night we put the agenda together for the
Would you repeat that, Sarah, please?
Yep, so May 17th at Jack Pine, Pints for a Purpose. You can come all night long. That's it.
Thank you, Director Spear. All right, Marcy Lord with the Business Services Report.
Great. Going to be short and sweet tonight. Enrollment report is in your packet. If you look at from the beginning of the year, we were down about 104 in the K through 12, and the average for this month was we would be down 88. So again, we're tracking a little bit higher, but we'll still be within budget. And then just a quick update on the EC, the early childhood. I hardly ever touch on that, but I just wanted to point that out. 4-year average on that is 338, and this month we're at 343, so we're right there. That's one that starts out low, and then as we go through the year, the enrollment continues to increase. However, we don't get a one-for-one count on that. They're not here full-time, so we get about a third of them for an ADM.
But it's our future, right? So it's a good sign. Good. Great.
Yes. And then in the financial report, nothing really to note on the community service fund. We're higher than last year, and that's because of we're again getting back to those pre-COVID levels. Otherwise, everything is within a couple of %, so nothing to note there. Any questions? All right, thank you.
Thanks, Marcy.
Thanks, Marcy.
Thank you.
Superintendent's report, Dr. Hahn.
Like I did a tour around Forest View. So Forest View, middle school doesn't necessarily get into bulletin boards, but they had a fun day today where they were really getting into lots of activities as students are going to come back in the building. And I saw the count of 38 days of student contact. So when you think about educators, and I'm looking at Jessica, because I think Jessica sent me a written about where one teacher starts to reflect, I only have 8 days to do this, and I only have 38 more days to make a difference, and I have 38 more days. And so that energy is going. And now that spring's hit, it's really going. I think we're out of the winter doldrums. So I saw that up today and kind of panicked. It's just the year's flying by. I think we made our last weather-related call, so I appreciate people's patience as we've gone through that. There will be an update coming to the policy and the calendar as we look to change from e-learning to snow days and what the implication will be. And I know groups are talking about that in negotiations as they're meeting. We have our first key committee meeting tomorrow night for strategic planning. It's from 5 to 8 p.m. at Brainerd High School in large conference room. We have 65 people who committed to being part of that work group. So that'll start, and some of that information will be flowing. And then I also want to call out, I'll point out Coach Borish, who's sitting in the back. The Knowledge Bowl State Championship is this coming Thursday, Friday at Craigan's. We do have a team representing Brainerd, and I'm going to get the number wrong. 2 teams, but the one team, they beat the next team by 35 or 38 points. Yeah. I mean, there's like a gap. So we're very excited. So that'll be happening this Thursday and Friday. So you think about all the recognitions, that's another great group to recommend. And that's what I have for my report at this time.
Thank you. So the list of future meetings for April and May is considerably longer than usual. So we have our, obviously tonight's meeting, we have the listening session that was rescheduled, now has been turned into virtual ones, so that April 11th one you can disregard that's on here. We have an equity task force meeting, and then of course the stakeholder meeting that Dr. Hahn just referenced tomorrow night as well. 3 board members will be at that one. I believe directors Brecken, Dondelinger, and Spear are attending that. Is that right?
That's
Yes,
correct.
I'm attending the music event at Gitchezebe tonight instead. April 14th, knowledgeable tournament at Craigan's. April 19th, policy committee meeting at Forest View, and the curriculum committee meeting. We're starting to get these committee meetings rolling. And then we have finance committee and personnel committee meetings on April 26th. Athletic Hall of Fame on May 1st. All sports banquet on May 1st. Project oversight, our next meeting will be on May 2nd. Board chair chat, which I've not been great about going to those. I should probably start doing those. Senior recognition night on the May 3rd, May 8th, the next regular school board meeting that's scheduled, followed by the May 9th equity task force meeting, another community stakeholder meeting with partner Ed on May 10th. Finally, another curriculum committee meeting on the 24th, long range planning on the 31st, and the Atlas graduation, of course, the May 31st has now been moved. And then finally, we have the fun ones, the really fun ones, June 1st, LEC graduation, and BLC graduations. And I've been privileged to be able to attend those the last 2 years, and those are really great. I'd recommend all board members that can attend those. It'll change your view on some things, I think. It's kind of interesting.
You'll also get invited to kindergarten graduation, 4th grade graduation. There's a lot of.
Yeah, there's lots. We'll get tons of emails. And then, of course, our last day of school is on June 2nd, followed that evening by Brainerd High School graduation, weather permitting, down at our lovely football field. So that's a lot of stuff going on. That'll fill in even more, I'm sure, over the next 5 weeks. So there we are. I would entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Chairman, can I bring up one thing?
Of course.
Would you want to tell everybody about the busing that you were telling me about?
Busing.
Well, we've had people come up and talk. We've had a lot of phone calls. We've had emails. And then the other day, I felt a lot better after you explained to me what you guys, all the work you've gone through. And why don't we just get it out there so that
The
people
busing
know?
update, so again, so Reichert's
It's a success.
Yeah, has been a good partner, but as they lose drivers. A lot of our drivers are retired, and so some of them officially retire at 80. And so their staffing has been difficult. So our Fran Jensvold, our transportation manager, and then Rebecca Kubish, they have now made backups to the backups to the backup. So when a bus gets canceled, they have literally created charts that tell parents if they can get to this spot, how they can get to school and from school. So they have really looked at some creative problem solving. We met again with Reichert's, and we're looking back to, we have families who've gotten really accustomed to a bus coming right to the end of their driveway. So that's made for longer routes and things like that. So as we get shorter, looking at, they call them collection points. But are there strategic areas within our district where we can have people meet at a central location? So lots of things happening. In some situations, there's been personal phone calls that are being made to families from Reichert's and from our transportation manager just to ensure that families are aware. There's a live feed that's on the website. It's highlighted in yellow. So the minute there's a phone call, that information is being updated. So families have become very accustomed to trying to look at that yellow bar so they can be notified. There's also messages that go out constantly. So it's been a year of navigation. So thank you for that reminder, DJ. That's a huge
Well, thanks for
workload.
getting on it. I mean,
Yeah,
it's nice to
well, you can thank Fran and Beck.
get
They
some
are
things done.
been amazing. The other thing so the showcase, the music showcase of excellence is tomorrow night at the Gitzizibe, and it is going to be the top of our musicians. So if you have an opportunity, it is a wonderful evening. Music, I'm hoping if they give us a break in our committee meeting, we can run down at least hear some of the amazing music happening. So that was not on our agenda. So I'll put that out there too. But it's a great night. Yeah, thank you.
All right, I will once again entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Motion.
Okay, I have a motion from Director Dondelinger. Did I hear a second?
I'll second.
And we have a motion from Director Dondelinger and a second from Director Brecken. Any discussion? All those in favor of adjournment signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We are adjourned.